Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In the last video, I went over one-shots and explained how you need to think in order to successfully write one. In that video, I mentioned how you have to have a one-and-done mindset in order to efficiently get your concept onto the paper. In this video, I'm going to be doing the complete opposite. In this video, I'm going to be going over the first 3 chapters of a series because those are the most important. Just keep in mind, these tips and tricks are based upon my own experience as a freelance comic book artist and are by no means a blueprint for guaranteed success. You're probably asking yourself, why 3 chapters? What makes the first 3 chapters more important than, say, the whole first 5? Well, I am basing my tips on the viewer model known as the 3-episode rule. Essentially, the 3-episode rule is something a critical audience uses to judge the worth of a show. You have 3 chapters or 3 episodes to catch my attention, or else I'll deem this work mediocre. Obviously, some works are exceptions to this rule and require many chapters or episodes to become great, so keep that in mind. The 3-episode rule is a shorthand approach to weed out work that could potentially be a waste of time. I typically use this rule when watching seasonal shows because why would I waste my time waiting every week if the first 3 weeks did not impress me? Don't get me wrong, I've mistakenly dismissed shows or books that were amazing and required a full watch to experience the full effect. It wasn't until I heard great things by word of mouth that I decided to give these shows a second go. I developed my tips based upon an essay model taught in schools. I'm sure most of you all know how an essay is set up with a hook, an intro, a thesis, a body, and a conclusion. Similarly, your first 3 chapters should hit these points in order to fully engage your reader. If this doesn't make sense right now, it should by the end of this video. Your chapter 1 should be thought of as a one-shot in my opinion. For more context about how one-shots should be set up, please check out my full video covering them. I'll link it in the top right corner right now. Basically, your first chapter should be your hook to your world. You want to immerse your reader into your world and begin introducing them to your main character. Most stories present a singular issue or mission that the protagonist overcomes in that same episode or chapter. By doing this, your reader is able to watch your hero handle a situation, thus giving them a taste for how future chapters or episodes might look. Your first chapter is your most important, so this is where you want to go nuts with your art and dialogue. It's okay to foreshadow upcoming events in your first chapter, but I usually wouldn't recommend it because you don't want to overwhelm your reader with too many concepts in the very beginning. To keep track of your story, I'd recommend outlining at least 10 chapters ahead of the one you're currently working on, so you know what's to come. Your first chapter should end with the full resolution and stand alone. This is your bait for potential fans. If your reader bites and enjoyed the conflicts you introduced and how your character resolved it, they might be inclined to see this through and dedicate themselves to longer and more complicated conflicts. Let's take a look at the big 3 and how they handled their first chapter. In Bleach, we are introduced to a delinquent named Ichigo who has the power to see ghosts. The first chapter only focuses on Ichigo and Rukia, a girl who's on a mission to hunt dangerous apparitions. The entire premise of chapter 1 is Ichigo using his power to help Rukia and mark the beginning of his Soul Reaper journey. We see foreshadowing of what direction the series could go in with the mentioning of the Soul Society and the Hollows, but the first chapter resolves completely with Ichigo's family being saved from the demon. Next, let's look at Naruto. In the first chapter, we only focus on Naruto and his ninja instructor Iruka. The first episode only focuses on Naruto trying to prove himself worthy of becoming the lowest ranking ninja. In doing so, he finds himself involved with a dangerous ninja named Mizuki who manipulates Naruto into stealing a forbidden scroll. From here on, we are introduced to the nine-tailed fox demon inside of him, foreshadowing the direction that this story could take, but the story ends with a full resolution, with Hiruka and Naruto defeating Mizuki. In One Piece, the first chapter serves as backstory, with the young Luffy aspiring to be like his mentor, red-haired Shanks. A group of problematic pirates take shelter in Luffy's village and stir up trouble, causing Luffy to try and handle them himself. After defeating the pirates, red-haired Shanks tells Luffy he can become a pirate one day. We are given a taste of the humor and combat in One Piece, but the first chapter comes with a full resolution, with Luffy setting off on his own journey at the very end. The second chapter. This is where your story really takes off. Unlike your first chapter, you should introduce your very first arc. A story arc is a plotline that would require several chapters to resolve. You want to begin to take your reader into your world for real now. In your second chapter, you can introduce some more side characters and maybe even a main character. The goal for your second chapter is to begin to answer some questions created by chapter 1 and to begin introducing more long-term questions. Let's take a look at the big 3 once again and see how they did it. In Bleach, we are introduced to a few of Ichigo's classmates who will become more important later. In this chapter, the first chapter's plotline is expanded upon, and Rukia makes Ichigo become a Soul Reaper for real. The chapter ends with him deciding to help a child spirit and vowing to help Rukia as her substitute Soul Reaper. In Naruto, the themes established in chapter 1 are expanded upon again. We are introduced to the head of the ninja village, and Naruto attempts to make his grandson respect ninjas. The chapter marks the beginning of Naruto's maturity. In One Piece, the story is pretty similar, with Luffy helping out a kid who wants to join the Navy by defeating a group of pirates in the town over. I don't know what it is with these little kids showing up in chapter 2, but it seems to be a common theme for some reason in Shonen Jump. Chapter 3 is your most important chapter after chapter 1, in my opinion. This is where the 3-episode rule reaches its peak, and this is your final chance to appeal to your audience, theoretically. This is the chapter where you need something big to convince your reader that your work is even worth continuing. This is the chapter where you want to introduce a climax or a very engaging moment. Anything to excite your reader, to make them think, hey, I made the right decision picking up this work. This can be done in many ways. Maybe have a fight scene reach its peak or introduce a very intimidating new villain. Let's take a look at the big 3 one last time to see how they did it. In Bleach, Kubo took the safe route by sticking to the same formula he already established in chapters 1 and 2, with Ichigo and Rukia solving another hollow case. The only difference this time is the main love interest, Orihime, is introduced, and we get a slightly different hollow case than usual. For once, the demon is actually given 3 dimensions, and we are told that he is Orihime's brother, and that every hollow started out as a human. This generates the moral question of, has every demon that's been killed so far been a human? In Naruto, we are finally introduced to the rest of the main characters. Naruto is assigned his team with Sasuke and Sakura, and the chapter is more comical, with Naruto trying to win over Sakura's attention. We are able to see the more fun side of Naruto in contrast to the action-packed and exciting previous chapters. The chapter ends with their new teacher being revealed, and he makes a comment about Sasuke's clan being a problem. This raises our interest as to what's going on with this cool new character, and we become more interested to see how this series is going to take off with them as a team. In One Piece, we are introduced to a badass samurai who is chained up because of how dangerous he is. Luffy decides to trust him more than the townsfolk and decides to free him to join him on his adventure. This chapter did a good job of continuing down the same adventurous path as its previous chapters, but created a tense situation where Luffy had gotten himself into a sticky situation. So let's run it back. Chapter 1 is your hook. You should be thinking of this as a one-shot so you can introduce your reader to your world. You should only focus on the protagonist this chapter and have a full resolution at the end. Chapter 2 should build upon the themes you already established in Chapter 1 and begin a story arc. Chapter 3 should be your climactic chapter where something big is revealed. Chapter 3 is where you want to work your hardest to deliver to your readers and overcome the 3-chapter rule. That's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys learned something new. If you're working on your own story chapters, leave a comment down below telling us about your story. As always, you can find the links to all my social media down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more juicy content. Be sure to check out my previous videos where I talk about panels, pitches, characters, effects, managing a large cast, and one-shots. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.